I'd like to welcome everyone to something we put together. It's a bit of a chat room, but I know that there's a digital meaning to that. We have presenters from this morning's sessions, and I was looking forward to asking them maybe if they'd like to add a little something since this is a live portion of what we're doing. I also have Matt Abbott sitting beside me to make sure that I don't get too nervous. Matt's very good at grounding me. So again, these are the folks that have presented. These are the folks that have brought you their stories. And by the way, folks, that was pretty awesome. I'd like you to know too that there's a very special guest in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, and Benno is coming to us live from Germany. I'm so sad that I haven't been able to connect with Benno the last 2 years. This is someone that said to me years ago when he was working at the biological station, I think we should get together in our summers. And I think it was 20 some years, Benno, which is a pretty incredible friendship relationship to the territory. I think I'd rather hear from everybody else on whatever they'd like to bring to the table. I think I'd like to say, that's, well, we're off, we're running, we've done it. And what do you think? So I'll turn it over to anyone that would like to contribute. And here we go. Matt, start with you.
Sure. There were a few things I was really, really touched by this morning. Of course, Representative Madonna, her incredible, that was so powerful. And to me, there's nothing more powerful than the simple phrase, we used to catch fish here, now we don't. Mm-hmm. And that sums up where we are. And that really hit me. And I also, it's great to see you again, Benno, as well. We've met a few times at Chief's house when you've been visiting here. And I really appreciated that presentation too, because it's that reminder that restoration is a lot, and the work we're doing to make our communities more healthy and our river, our human and our animal and our ecological communities healthier, it's a lot more than just the big stuff. It's the dams, we need better fish passage. Some of the dams need to come out. We need to think about all that. But, I've heard stories from you over the years, Chief, of doing monitoring in your science days at the biological station and hitting 100-year-old sawdust on the sea bottom, right? And so we hear, and that's a case where the dead wood maybe isn't as helpful as the dead wood you're putting in the river, Benno, because it's maybe too much in one spot. But it's this really complicated but important story. And I know the team in your nation that I've been able to work with, the good folks we have on the water. Yeah, they've been looking at getting fish past the culverts, but they've also been looking at getting trees in the ground and looking at the health of the different waterways. And I guess the one other thing that really struck with me, I was reminded by Madonna's talk, but I've also been reminded before in chatting with Eddie and others. When I came into this, I was thinking too much about the environment and animals and humans as separate. And when we started working together on the restoration efforts, it was really realizing that this is about food for people in the communities that live here too, right? And it's about us doing well with the waters around us. So that really came through clear for me this morning. And I'm always amazed. I just learned so much this morning from stuff I think about a lot. So it's going great for me. So
I'll say thank you to Matt, and I didn't mean to facilitate, but I see on my screen, and I'll go clockwise. We have Dwayne. Dwayne, it's always great to connect with you. You always give me lessons in the language and how important it is. You always bring me songs, stories, and I'd like to hear just a little more from you somehow about what this might mean to you you're a connection to all the people on the reserve. Can you, would you like to add a little bit more to today's session?
Thank you very much. My name is Dwayne Toma from the Passamaquoddy tribe. And it's an honor for me to be here with you this morning. I just wanted to say a few words in regards to, I just want to say a little prayer here and get us focused on what we're doing and centering ourselves. Williwan Gichi ni Wescoman, Millionaire Nupch, Peskotomuhkati People. Naga millionaire energy willing to walk a weko ki yud elewit dazig jik nak twimini. Wujuk emine Gichi ni Wescoman, dide wen Vazelmanen, naga de weji wujuk emanen. Mi guida haman no gana elmini kani auladi, Williwan Gichi ni Wescoman, dide alabu mugi. This morning, I thank the Creator for giving us another day of life and for giving us such a beautiful place to live here on Turtle Island. So I ask the Creator to help us to love and help everybody and to help the animals, help the fish, the plants, the animals, everything around us so they have a voice. We must speak for them and to remember those that have gone before us. See the alagumugig to all our relations. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be able to have these discussions, to be able to have the salmon have a voice, to be able to have the medicines have a voice, to be able to have the people have a voice, to be able to continue the work that we're doing as stewards of this land for thousands of years. Let our salmon go home. Let them take their natural paths. Big corporations have made it difficult for our salmon to be heard and for them to be able to continue the path that they've done for thousands of years. We've interrupted their ecosystem. So I just want to say that I'm very honored to be here today, to be able to work together collectively on both sides of the border, because we don't recognize the border. Mm-hmm. But I know it's there. And I know that we could work together to be able to solve these common problems. You really wouldn't. Thank you very much.
Cuban one day. Beno, my very special friend.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm glad that I had the chance to join you, and congratulations to this great summit. In my interview, unfortunately, I was not able to hear my interview, but maybe you can send it me later on by email or whatever. I forgot in my interview an important, in my eyes, an important issue concerning dams. Well, we are facing more or less all over the world the problem, the ecological problem, the deterioration with dams. And if we, as I showed you in my presentation, if we build bypasses, this is already for upstream migration a big enhancement, but it's just one side of the coin. If you keep the dam, and removing dams, we all know that it's very difficult. But if we keep the dam, you still have you end up with having a bathtub upstream of the dam with all consequences. Downstream migration is not possible. The water gets warm, algae blooms, and all these problems, they still keep alive, these problems, they're still there. So of course, removing dams, as you did in St. Croix, I think, in the mouth, this is always the best solution, because then you solve the two sides of the coin. I forgot that to say.
And I had one other thing that struck me this morning that links to that. You're talking about, like you always do, Benno, so well, the bigger picture of what it takes for a river to be healthy. And I was really struck by Ed Bassett's video of putting his hand in the water and letting the juvenile alewife swim over. For me, you know, we think about getting the fish up the river, but looking at those alewives swim over his hand reminds us that we need attention to how they get back down too, right? And that's the simplest equation. And you can there's more and more to think about from there. So for me, that's an image that's going to stay with me, and a reminder that when we're doing work to take care of these systems, it's to remember all parts of it, right? Not just that one moment where we get them past a barrier, or where there used to be a barrier. We've got to think about the whole life of these species.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Benno, I also like to bring one of our stories, at least, to the table. When Benno comes to our territory, he goes to see the dam. He goes to see the fish. He wants to know what we're doing and how we're doing it. When we go to Deutschland, he takes us to he takes us to see the bypasses. I've seen so many things in your success stories, Benno. How do you restore something like the Danube, that incredible river? And when we see a picture of how you've put debris in the river, I'll always remember you telling me, Hugh, this is Germany. We have to tell them that we have to put rocks and debris in a river that has been channelized for so many years.
Yes.
And Germany is so organized and so structured. It was not a simple task to change the language. So I like that story, but I also like the one where we went to see the alewives being tagged, and then we crossed the border, and we were invited along with Brian Altvater to see where the problems might be on the dams upriver, and we did that. But on the way back, we were hauled over by a couple of police vehicles, and they were very interested in this character from Germany who had his passport stamp full of China. And it's because Benno takes his knowledge to China. He's shared with river restoration in China. So there's a lot to this character you're seeing, just like everybody else on the screen. And I know that they're all longer stories. And Bob, I've only got 22 minutes left. So I want to... No pressure, Bob. But Bob is another one of those special characters.
I don't know, Chief, if you're saying that I talk too much or too little. I'm not sure. I want to thank you for inviting me, and all the people that have helped to put this together. I'm only one person from the group that I tried to represent in the Living Tides in our conversation today. I've still got a lot to learn, and I learned something from you and the group in Living Tides every time we meet, and I'm learning more today. And I think, the things that I've heard today echo what I've learned since I've been here. As Matt said, too many of us, as we go through our education, are taught about ecosystems, and we're taught about them as things to save rather than things we live in and things we're a part of. And you said that today, thinking about, the Western perspective on the environment talks about resources, not so much creatures. And we tend to look at the pieces of the puzzle, not the puzzle and the picture it's trying to show us. And I think this is an opportunity for us to come together, and all the people in these next 2 days, to think about what that picture should look like. And ask ourselves how we can come together across borders that neither the tribe nor the creatures recognize, and figure out what we can ask of the system and what's possible, and to make compromises because we can't ask everything from it. Dams bring jobs, but they also block fish. That's just the simplest of compromise that you need to talk about. And bringing us together in forums like this, it's just a really powerful way to begin what I hope will be the kinds of spin-off conversations we need, and large gatherings where we can share our different perspectives. It's incredibly, we live in what seems to be, I've got an 18-year-old son and I'm thinking about him going into the world. Recent events have me back thinking about when I was 18 in the 80s and what I worried about. And on top of that, it's about climate change, right? And we know our systems aren't static. There may not be an equilibrium he gets to deal with as an ecosystem. It's going to be always shifting. And so these conversations are really, really important, not just for us, but for the future generations to figure out how they're going to cope, not just with what we had to deal with, but for one extra dimension of difficulty in climate change. So I'll wrap it there. I won't use your whole 22 minutes and just leave you with those thoughts. They're the ones I can contribute right now. So they're the ones I offer.
Thanks, Paul. Wonderful words. We do have some time. We also have some questions. We notice that people are posting questions in the chat room. So I can throw a couple of those out there just to see what the response might be from the presenters. And I myself am interested because I know I have my own answers, but I'd love to hear from everybody else. One of the questions, what was the most important factor in helping to restore the alewife population? Now, I know that Matt was here throughout that whole process, the battle, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't mind, Matt.
Yeah, I saw that come up earlier and it got me thinking, what's the most important factor? And I think it really comes down to people. And so it's the people that I've had the pleasure and real honor of my life in many ways to work with over the past decade. But I think of people before that too, right? Like my predecessors and colleagues, Dave Thompson, David Kuhn, Janice Harvey, they worked on this in the 90s, so did others. I think of the years and years Lisa Caskey put in.
Absolutely.
Of understanding what was happening in the river. I think of, I think, and I marvel at the work Ed Bassett did over the many years to communicate this. I think about the sacred run I got to be a part of on the second day. And I just think about, it's really people and not just the people in the now, and it's people who've worked together. And I love the quote that you and Harvey referenced earlier. The difficult, how I learned it was, the difficult we'll do right now, the impossible will take a little while. And what I was trying to get at in my talk was that I think when I came, what's happening right now felt like the impossible.
Yes.
Right? The numbers we're seeing on the river, and especially the collaboration we're seeing on the river. When I came in, the state of Maine was the opponent, the person the entity we had to overcome to start this restoration process. Now I'm on calls with staff from the state of Maine, figuring out, finding money to do studies to improve passage at the dams, right? And that's just 10 years is not a long time for a turnaround like that. So I think it's the people that kept the faith when things looked bleak. And, there was a year where there was 900 alewife counted. Well, people didn't lose faith, and the Lisa Caskeys and everyone else who just kept at it, kept things moving forward. It didn't necessarily look like we'd ever get to where we are now, but without them, we wouldn't have had the hope we had. And to even have, I was really touched by how you spoke about the salmon, Dwayne, and to have salmon in the conversation, to be thinking about the possibility of having salmon back in the river didn't. That was another thing that feels a little less impossible than it once did, right? So I think it's really the people, and it's a good reminder to all of us who care about these issues, is that we don't always see the fruits of our labor, right? There's people that did stuff that it took to get us here that may not still be around to see the benefits. So I think that it's the people, and people willing to work together is the biggest factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else? I'll put in my little 2 cents worth. I agree with Matt. It was a major battle to convince the state of Maine to open the river, and that took people, individuals again, that didn't give up. That was the formation of the river keepers on the reserve, and to this day, a powerful voice. Other voices entered into the picture. One of the things we realized was that we had to break down that big barrier, the border. There was no collaboration of science across the border. There was no dialogue. There was no discussion. So how can you look after something, protect a river, restore it, bring back a fish that needs access to that river when you can't even talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
So Harvey Miller and Alex Hoare breaking that big barrier with projects. DFO, don't forget, not only worked diligently on that, DFO trucked fish around the barriers. That's what kept the population at 900. So that was pretty important.
And can I add one thing, Chief? I'm sitting across from one of them right now, but every Tuesday I'm on a call with the people who are, some of the key people who are working day in, day out to restore this river. And I'd say sometimes at least half of them are retired. Or not necessarily, or retired, or had a career like yourself, right? Like you had a career in DFO science, you're still at it, you're dedicating yourself to the river. Alex Hoare, retired, potentially symbolically, because he remains very, very engaged, and he's a lot of the fire behind the restoration. I think of Chuck Verrill and his legal expertise. I think of Ed just retired, and I don't see him going anywhere. And so I think in addition to the people, we see that's a good indication of the level of dedication. You have a call, half of the people on the call are retired, and they're working day in, day out. Lisa Caskey, right? So I think that's an important piece. There's the people, and there's the dedication of those people.
So when it comes to retirement, I wouldn't recommend it. Is that what you mean? Yeah. It's been such a treat. Now, I have stories about everybody here. Bob, I do need to say thank you, because the group that we're together with have shown such incredible character. I mean, to get together for a project and a year later we're still together and trying to do these things that no one else would do, and making sure that there are voices that were there before, are there now, and I'm sure they're going to be there in the future. And I know that Bob's working very diligently, because as he said, even to put together his presentation, I know you were supposed to be working on another project to make sure that you had a job. That's pretty important, Bob. And that's what you bring to the table. That whole group brings that to the table. It's giving of themselves. It's linking and connecting with the Indigenous peoples, the voices of Indigenous peoples. And that would have to take me back to Dwayne, how important it is that the language, I don't speak the language, but I will never stop defending it. I will never stop making sure that the voices of the Dwayne Thomas and the Bedonasuk Thomas are heard. That will be my job. And there's no such thing as retirement when it comes to being a native. I don't think we have to continue this any further unless we can talk about another question.
Well, there's a question up, and I'm being selfish because I really want to hear Benno's answer,
Oh,
because I
yes,
want to
there's
take
a-
it as advice and I want to be guided by it. There's a question from Harvey. Hi, Harvey. We've talked about salmon restoration in the Skutik at some point. The river has been warmer the past years. Harvey's wondering if anyone could speak to how to cool a river. Maybe Benno has some experience in that regard.
Well, we are facing that problem on regulated streams where we lost the so-called lateral connection to the floodplain. When they strained the river, they also chopped all the trees. So the alluvial forest was gone. So one of our tasks is, well, here Germany is very tight in terms of space. So we are competing always with space with agriculture. So what we do since 20 years, the state of Bavaria, and it's more or less in all Germany, we try to buy land along the river, so-called buffer strips, at least 10, 20 meter or even more. And when we have that land, we let it go. In the former times, we were planting trees, but now we let it go in terms of succession. So the trees come by itself, and that gives shade to the river. Of course, if you have a big stream like the Danube, this effect is just partially. But the smaller rivers, we're facing a warming, strong warming of the rivers, and this is in the consequence you get a shift upstream. You get conditions in terms of temperature and other conditions which you will find downstream. So it's the downstream condition is moving upstream, and growing trees or having back the alluvial forest. That's an important thing. And also we are facing a high lack of dead wood in our rivers. Dead wood is, as you know, a very important substrate material in the river. So trees, that's the answer. Alluvial forest would be the best.
And I know part of the restoration in the Skutik here, that there's been great advice from some of the folks. I'm blanking on his name, but we've had some great sessions with him, who's based, I think, more towards Lubeck. His name will come to me, but some really good advice around here. A lot of rocks were pushed to the edges of the river, especially for the log driving days, where the goal was to get logs down the river without barriers. And so those rocks have been pushed to the edge, and it's not quite as much channelizing as you've seen in Germany and a lot of Europe, but it has a bit of that effect where it changes the natural flow of the river. So even part of restoration is sort of, it's getting those rocks back through the river so that the water is not going just in one path. It's taking its more meandering natural course around and through things. So I think that may not have as much of a cooling effect as the trees, but I know it's part of the answer here as well.
You know, our minister president, so-called in Bavaria, he asked me once, what would you recommend if for stream restoration if you have no restrictions at all? Well, I said that the answer is very simple. Just give space back to the streams and let it go. No maintenance and let it go. That's restoration. The river is all going by itself. I mean, for dams, of course, that's a different story because dams are very solid. But it takes, if you take away the maintenance, I mean, it means more or less take away human beings. That's an interesting models on the Danube. I tried to find students to model what will happen on a stream section with 5 big dams if you take away human beings. So there are different versions. Very interesting. Just theoretically, of course.
There's another. Oh, sorry.
But the river itself is doing the whole restoration work.
Yeah. Benoit, sorry for interrupting, Benoit. There are just way too many stories on the restoration of that incredible river. I always remember your story about the that 9-foot sturgeon that's endangered between Austria and Germany, of the confluence of a couple of rivers there. I also recall a project where instead of trying to restore a part of this river that might have been, again, impossible, it seems to me you fellows came up with a way of plugging into one river to move things down that way and bring it out at another place in that river. So it's truly a natural bypass.
Yeah.
That was a pretty incredible story alone. I see Jim Kierstead has put something up for us. Jim's another character that has a story with us. And it's a long story, so I won't share that part with you. But I think his question is more of a comment. If upstream passage is measured in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, then downstream migration should be seen and measured by the millions. Matt.
Yes. And I would say that on the Skutik River, I think it's a real possibility that we'll be measuring upstream migration in the millions as well. Certainly the spawning habitat for alewife in the natural spawning habitat in this system is just, there's so much of it. It's a river that just really suits alewife well. And they run all sorts of places, but this place is particularly good for them. And so, yeah, so if we've got them in the millions going up, then certainly we're measuring millions down and maybe tens of millions down. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's the numbers are. It's important to remember what can be, not just what has been. Right? Like up to 500,000 from 50,000 should be celebrated, but 1 million fish is not a lot of fish for the St. Croix. 5 million is again probably not even the maximum that the system can accommodate. So.
Yeah,
So I think the numbers are closer to 24 million just as a conservative estimate, should they get access back to their to the lakes and streams that they normally go in. And that's a conservative estimate.
I just want to make a, and you know, and that is that you know, we're known for people who spear pollock.
Yeah.
And I was reading a book by David Francis, who has now gone on to the spirit world, and it's Sunrise in Zibayig. And in his book, he really talks about how plentiful the pollock were growing up. I mean, they were bubbling on the ocean. They were just bubbling. They were just so plentiful for the people. And in 2022, that is for the people who are known to spear pollock. That's really an issue, I think, as well, as far as culturally what we've done and how we gather and all these different methods of trying to survive. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, you know, the pollock was so plentiful, they were just bubbling at the shores when the tribal members go and gather or get the fish. So for the people who are known to spear pollock.
Thanks for that, Dwayne. That reminder, that necessary reminder. And there's one quick question I'd like to throw out there from Baron Robinson. And I'd like to throw out a quick answer because we're down to our last minute. A key challenge is how we mentor and empower new people who will replace all of you working now. How do you mentor the next generation? Just watch the video. Thank you, everybody.
Great.